I get emails from viewers all the time saying, "How long do you think it's going to like when's the end game basically?" And what I always say is I wake up I literally wake up every day and I'm like, "Is today the day? I don't know." I'm up to it's at the point where I'm like, "Well, maybe this is it. I don't know."
Hey guys, Ralph here from the Endgame Investor with this week's edition of the Bitter Endgame Draft with Phil Lowe. Check out his channel on Rumble, link in the description below. How are you doing, Phil?
I'm good. I'm wearing my Sound Money Society shirt from a viewer who sent me one. Did he send you one too?
I don't think so. I think he likes you more.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. I'm wearing my Sukkot shirt because we're supposed to dress up on Sukkot on the holiday. It's not one of those days where I can't do work, but we have to differentiate the holiday from regular days. So I'm in my sukkah, in my shirt, and my
Where's the
sukkah
lemon?
stuff in the background. Oh, the lemon, the
Yes.
etrog. It is inside.
Wait, don't you have to have the lemon in the tent?
No, no, you have to pick it up with the lulav and the hadass and the arava and shake it around. And yeah. But I do that
But do you
once a
do that in the
day.
tent or do you do it outside of the tent?
He went into the tent. I sent him out of the tent. Ah!
You can do it in the tent, but you don't have to do it in the tent. The only thing you have to do in the tent is eat and sleep, and generally just do things that you would do in your house. And the more that you do in the tent as opposed to your house, the better it is. So I am doing the interview in this house, in this tent, because this is my primary abode for 7 days.
Oh, God. So you like live in a tent for a week.
Well,
It's
not
like camping. It's
exactly.
like backyard camping.
I can go into my house, but I try to do main activities here.
Most of it. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's probably fun actually. Bet the kids love it.
Yeah, they do. It's good.
Yeah.
It's cool because
Anyway,
everyone has one in their backyard, so you go and you meet other people in their sukkahs, and
wait,
it's like
do
mandated camping for a week. Everybody's
do people get jealous of each other's tents? And they're like, your tent's a lot nicer than my tent. So
no,
no.
not
My
really.
wife was like, we need a better tent. They have a better tent than us. We have to upgrade our tent next year.
You know what? No. There's
No.
no
And then you just
jealousy.
end up with another house. No, that doesn't happen. Okay.
Doesn't happen. Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
it's the opposite. Maybe it's a purity challenge. So your wife will elbow you be like, their tent's way worse than ours, and therefore they're more penitent or holy or whatever.
You can't have penitent without tent. So we're gonna talk about the Inyana Dioma, the stuff of the day, the crazy stuff that's happening in London. And then we're going to give some theories about why the repo volume can exceed bank reserves, because that's been bothering me, and I think I have an answer. And then we're going to talk about the gentleman's portfolio, and then we're going to talk about why the amount of money in the society does not matter, and why that is important is that people say that, oh, China has all this gold, and they're going to rule the world after the end game because they have all the gold, and we're all going to be Chinese slaves because they have all the gold. The answer is it doesn't matter how much gold they have, because it's a mimanafshach. It's either yes or no. Either way, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If they have the gold and they spend it, then they would have to spend it in order to have the stuff that they could get for that gold. Otherwise, they just have a bunch of gold and it doesn't do anything. So if they spend it, then we have the gold because they will spend it and give it to other people by doing that. And or they don't spend it and then it doesn't matter. So Mimanashef doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much gold China has. It's totally irrelevant. But let's start with what is going on in London.
London, baby!
Phil, how is this whole London situation? Is it tickling your fancy? Are you waking up in cold sweats or warm sweats or fever
Yeah.
dreams? Are you having good dreams about this?
Yeah, so I get emails from viewers all the time saying, "How long do you think it's going to like when's the end game basically?" And what I always say is I literally wake up every day and I'm like, "Is today the day? I don't know." It's at the point where I'm like, "Well, maybe this is it. I don't know." But basically, yeah, the silver lease rate. I got an email from Chris Jensen, not a personal email. He sends out a blaster email to all his subscribers that the lease rate had soared to 39%. And I said, well, that's really high.
How is
And
that
then another
calculated?
one,
Do you know?
I don't. I don't. We'll have to look that up. And then, well, I got an email like 8 hours later. The lease rate has surpassed 100%. So I was like, wow, that is some real liquidity issues going on. Now, I do want to clarify one thing. There is silver in the LBMA vaults, but there is not, nobody is willing to part with it for $50. That's what the problem is. People want a lot more fiat currency to release their silver, and the bullion banks that are short do not want those numbers to go up because they are on the wrong side of it. So right now they're paying a small fortune to have silver flown from New York over to London to try and alleviate the pressure on the LBMA.
I think it's the Hunt brothers come back and they're
The other
exacting vengeance.
zombified Hunt brothers.
Wait, one of them is still alive, yeah?
Is he? I didn't
I
know
think
that.
so. I think
Okay.
one of them's still alive. There was a fat one and a thin one, I remember. Probably the thin
Were they?
one's
I think
alive.
they were the basis for the Trading Places brothers. They really seem like they were.
Mortimer, your brother's not well. We better call an ambulance. Fuck him!
I showed a chart on Endgame Investor in the last post that we are at a near record, the highest premium for spot silver that has ever been over New York since 1980. Now, I challenge and I deny that this is backwardation, because backwardation would have to be prices for the same good in the same place, and this is not that. This is, I think, a special situation going on in London where there's just not enough silver in London specifically. So the price of London silver is going to have to go up until it can coax silver out of probably New York. Silver
Yeah.
has been coming in from London to New York since the beginning of 2024. Now it's at a record high in New York, so it's just going to reverse the flow. Now the
Yeah, it's just
bigger
arbitrage.
yeah, the bigger question is, why are these imbalances happening? In a stable monetary system, there should be a constant price for silver and a constant lease price for silver. But then you have like waves going this way, waves going that way. You know, things are just
Well,
it
what's
just
funny is
yeah.
they have to physically move the silver, so they're flying the silver. They put all the silver on ships and send it to New York, and then second it gets there, like put it back on the plane. We got to get back to London. There's a squeeze. They're
Oh
like,
man.
they're spending all this resources getting this, just moving the silver between the two cities.
So you'd think the entire idea of a clearinghouse, which we'll talk about later regarding repo, the entire idea of a clearinghouse is that you cancel out these debts so that you don't have to move the silver, because dollars were originally silver. So when somebody owed somebody $50 and that same guy owed the other person $30, you cancel it out. You just move $20 instead of 50 and then 30. So instead of moving $80, you're moving $20. There's no efficiency. There's no point in moving and shipping silver across an ocean on a plane or a boat and then shipping it immediately back. It means that our entire monetary system is so messed up that it can't figure out what to do with all these silver blocks on ships or whatever. Yeah, if you really wanted to pull a Die Hard, you could somebody could like shoot down the planes. I'm not advocating this. I don't want anyone to
Yeah.
get killed. Or sink the boats with all the silver on it, especially if they're piloted by AI and a self-driving plane or a self-driving boat. You could sink all the silver and then down the whole monetary system. And Keynesians would say, "Well, it's just a boat of silver. It doesn't have anything to do with the monetary system." It does. It does. I'm sorry. You have to admit that.
Yeah, there was one of the Keynesians I follow just for hate watching is Jeff Schneider, the Eurodollar University, and he had a post. Gold has hit $4,000 and it has absolutely nothing to do with inflation. Here's why, and then it was econobabble for several paragraphs.
Yeah.
But
So
anyway,
when you respond to Jeff Snyder, are you making a snide remark?
yeah, basically,
Okay. Do you get?
there's a.
It was a pun. It was a pun. I punned.
Oh, I get it. I get
Okay, I
it.
got it. Okay.
All right. So, is there more for the LBMA that we have to discuss? I would just say that I want to temper a little bit of the expectations because, like I said, the silver it's not like the LBMA. They open the vault and like some moths fly out and there's no silver there at all. There is silver. It's just not available at the clearing price. So they're going to have to. They either need to do what they're doing, which is fly silver over to put in the vault to say, "See, there's more silver," or they have to let the price go way up. But for those expecting like tomorrow's the end game, I don't think this will be the catalyst of tomorrow being the end game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's going to be tomorrow. We're going to have to see backwardation that cannot be resolved. This, in theory, can be resolved if the silver gets there. And the
Yeah.
question is, what price will it get there, and will the price keep rising? And why exactly is the price rising? And you and I can say from our bird's eye view, oh, because the monetary system is fakakta. But in terms of the proximate causes, why is this happening right now on ground level? It's hard to say. It's just we know ultimately why, but the proximate causes level up to eventually a collapse of the dollar, but identifying each stage to that end is very difficult.
And from what I understand, retail still has not jumped in yet. So this is still, large family houses and banks fighting with each other. The masses have not awoken.
Yeah.
But more and more are. I have a friend who's really getting into it now.
Yeah, actually I had a comment, you'd appreciate this. From This is a guy that I met because he was evacuated, or he was evacuating from the center of the country during the Iran war, when Iran was aiming for the center and not for here up north. So there were a bunch of guys that were looking for shelter up north. So this is one of those guys, and he asked me what I did, and I told him that I was a monetary philosopher, and he knew all about options trading and this. Now he's an investor, a businessman. He has like land that he purchased or whatever, like one of the capitalists up there, like far higher than me. I just pretend to be a capitalist because I know what money is. So it gives me an opportunity to like join the capitalist group when I really have no idea how to run a business. Um, Except, I can run my own business, but I'm not going
Yeah.
to start hiring people and doing that whole thing. That's just not in my head. So he says I didn't know that he watches you, but he sent me a WhatsApp a few days ago. He's like, Rafi, I think I'm having a Phil moment where I'm having a nervous breakdown because I've suddenly realized that you're right. I was like, it's like, don't worry, it's going to be difficult, but it's going to be a good difficult. Just relax. He already bought a bunch of silver from the Israeli company, so he's safe-ish. But
So wait, he knew about
yeah,
me before he knew about you?
I don't know if he knew about you before me.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he did. I think
Oh, he just
I
knows
think
about me.
because we have this podcast, he's like, oh, and I recommend Phil, that he goes and watches Phil, and then he heard about your
Yeah.
nervous breakdown with silver.
Do I have the Xanax bottle? I think I still do. Let's see.
Xanax
Yes, I
bottle.
do, right here. Yeah, I keep this. This is the bottle of Xanax they prescribed me. I keep it here. I only ended up taking a couple, then like the panic attacks went away. So I was like, oh, fine, I'm fine.
How
I
much
don't need that.
silver is the rest of the bottle worth?
That's a good question.
Yeah, don't sell that stuff. That's
No,
dangerous.
no,
Yeah.
no, absolutely not.
Okay. Um,
What's the next one? I think we're good on LBMA.
LBMA. The next one was the possible causes of more repo trading volume than dollars that exist to
Yeah,
satisfy those trades.
I thought more liquidity. I'm just spitballing here. You feel free to shoot this down. I thought one possible explanation was that because the Treasury was switching long-term debt to short-term debt, additional credit was still being created. So the curve is still going up. So they're still finding debt that they are able to throw into the repo system. And you
I'm
think
going to
that's
shoot that down
okay?
because if they're finding more debt, that's fine. But I think that repos can only be traded for reserves and not for dollars on top of that base.
Oh, okay.
I
See, I did
th
not
I
know that.
think.
Okay. So they can wait, they can only be traded for zombie money. They can't be traded
Yeah,
for
they have to be traded for zombie money, not for dollars that exist in checking accounts that are extra. I think.
That's interesting.
I'm pretty sure that that's the
Okay.
case.
Well, then my theory is totally wrong. All right, what's your
Uh,
theory?
So my theory is just more of a mathematical technical issue, that if for example, let's say I owe you $70 and then you owe me $50, so I could pay you $70 and then you pay me $50, right? And then the volume of trade between us is $120. But if we say, look, Phil, I owe you 70, you owe me 50, how about I just pay you 20? And then you should say, sure, because that's what's going to happen anyway, right? So then the trading volume is still $120, but the amount of dollars that actually moves is just 20. because
Yeah.
my debt to you of 70 is paid off, and now your debt to me of 50 is paid off. So the debts that were paid off are $120 of debt paid off, whereas only $20 moved. So then you could say, like, why would we even move $120? Well, we wouldn't. We just agree between ourselves to that you pay me 20 or whatever it was. But if there's like a circle of people that owe money to different people in that circle, and then you need a central authority to figure out who owes what to move the minimum amount of dollars between accounts in order to satisfy all those debts, right? Then that's a clearinghouse. That's how checking works. The ACH, what does it stand for? Something clearinghouse. You know, when you send money to
Yeah.
somebody by ACH, it functions by clearinghouse because you're sending money to somebody else. But if that somebody else owes somebody else money, and that somebody else through a chain of like 1,000 people owes you eventually money, it'll cancel out and they'll move the minimum amount of dollars to satisfy all the debts between all those people, right? So I think that's what's happening with repo, because there is a central clearinghouse with repo, and this centrally cleared repo is a new thing. This is not like it's always happened this way. I think it's since 2017 or 2018, it's been gradually growing, and there are risks with it, and I don't really understand what the risks are, but basically what I think is going on is that some of the repo, I think it's like 600 or 700 billion out of the 3 trillion that are traded, are essentially cleared. So those $700 billion could represent, I don't know, 1.5 trillion instead of actually 700 billion. And so that money is being represented on all sides of it in the volume, whereas only some of that money is being transferred. So then you could ask me the question, well, if there's a central clearinghouse for repo, you could theoretically have a ratio of like 1,000%, whereas 10 times the amount of money is being traded on the volume side than is actually being exchanged between accounts. And I would say to you, no, I don't think that's happening, because the SOFR rate, the repo rate, is being very wobbly and uncooperative during month ends and during tax days. So we're already seeing tightness in the repo market. So I don't think we have that much to go. I don't think we have to go to like 200% or 300% or something like that. I think we're still very close. I just don't know where the end is.
Yeah, I mean that all logically makes sense. I know it was hard to like when you this is why it's so hard to crash. Like the viewers don't understand. Like it's really hard to call a crash. It's almost impossible to call a crash. And so when somebody makes the crash call and then it doesn't happen, everyone's like, "Oh, you're so stupid." But it's just like you did, you make the best guess you can with the evidence you have available, but and then you have to figure out why you were wrong. Now, I mean, it could be that we're both wrong and that gold isn't money and that the system can in fact sustain itself forever. That is a possibility, I guess. But it could also be that just the numbers that were being used to calculate the repo are not, the inputs we are getting are leading us to incorrect outputs because the numbers themselves are off somehow.
Yeah, it's a very strange situation to be in, where I'm wrong about a technical thing that I was staking my name to, and so I'm wrong about it. But I'm not really that disturbed about it because I still know what's happening here.
Yeah,
And silver's at 50 and gold's at 4,000, and
yeah,
everything seems to be going our way. So who's really going to be mad at me? It's not like I
yeah,
staked any trades on this. And I specifically said, like, never trade based on this stuff.
yeah.
If you want to make it, like, for example, like, so this is an important point, and I emphasized it on EGI, that I saw all these calls, backwardation in silver, blah blah blah, everything's going to hell. And I was like, this is not quite backwardation. And if you want to assume that it is, and you think that on the strength of silver backwardation that you call backwardation, we're going to head into the end game in a week, and you want to stake all your bets on that in some kind of options play, I think that's stupid, and I would never do that. But if you want to make a small bet that once silver breaks through 50, we're going to head to, like, let's say 60 or 70 in a few weeks or a month or two. You could stake a few $100 on that or $1,000 on that if you have that money to lose, and take a bet. That's not a problem. But know what to stake your money. I will stake my money on gold and silver being money. I will stake my dollars on that, and I will just wait. But I'm
Sorry.
not going to stake my money on the repo market necessarily breaking down at any specific time.
I have a bug of some sort. Hold on one second.
He's dead. Oh, who will make Bender waffles?
waffles just the way he likes them now.
So you had actually, I listened to it while I was making dinner. You had a video on the gentleman's portfolio. Before you talk to us about the gentleman's portfolio, what are your sources on the gentleman's portfolio? How do you know people were using it? And how long was this popular?
Sure. So my sources are sort of a little vague. I mean, I don't think it was a strict thing where people were like, I must have exactly. Let me explain what the gentleman's portfolio is first. The gentleman's portfolio is 1/3 physical gold and silver, and that could be vaulted or in physical possession or in the form of things like jewelry or scepters or whatever, whatever the rich did back in the old days. And then 1/3 productive land. Or even just your house. I mean, if you're on the lower level of the gentleman's portfolio, just your house. And I bet in those days, too, the house probably was more productive than the house is now because people would work out of their houses more. And then the final third would be business ventures. So,
Wait, just to give context here, what would a gentleman be nowadays? Are we talking
so
billionaire, 100 millionaire,
a
10
thousand
millionaire?
ounces of a thousand ounces of gold if it was all in just dead gold in a vault. That's what I would declare.
A thousand ounces of gold would be
$4 million.
$4 million.
Yeah, that's entry level into the gentleman's club.
All right, okay. So $4 million wouldn't that's not a disgusting amount of money.
No, no, it's not. And it's if you think about it, like the way I described it, like $4 million. If you had just $4 million right now and there was no more inflation whatsoever and prices were fixed for the rest of your life, you could, if you were about my age, yeah, you could probably never have to work again. I mean, you have to be prudent. You can't go out and buy a mansion with a peeing cupid in the front yard and a helicopter and a boat and spend your life, spend it. If you spend it frivolously, yeah, it'll be gone pretty quick.
Right. To strip out the inflation, it would be $35,000 in the 60s
Yeah,
or the 50s.
yeah, like 1960.
$35,000, during the Great Depression, you'd be living large.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You could be fine. You'd be fine. A lot of people hear $4 million, and that's still quite a bit of money. It's still
Yeah.
quite a bit of change.
Mhm.
So I got this. It's both Bill Holter and Market Sniper has been talking about the gentleman's portfolio, and Bill Holter was talking about 1,000 ounces of gold was considered wealthy. That's the considered. You've entered the wealthy club if you have 1,000 ounces of gold. But the thing is, if everyone just shoots for 1,000 ounces of dead gold, so then there's not going to be any gold in the system. So if there's no gold in the system, what happens? The prices go down. The market responds to the lack of metals in the system, and it lowers prices until the gold is coaxed out of people's hiding places. So not many people actually have 1,000 ounces of just dead gold sitting in their vaults. There's just not. What are there, 7 billion people on Earth? Yeah, there's not enough gold to do that. So what people do instead is they mix it. So they have some dead gold. Maybe if I could theoretically get 1,000 ounces of dead gold, I might just keep 100 or 200 ounces of dead gold in a vault, and then the others I will put to productive use. I'll invest in properties, I'll invest in businesses, and so that allows when you use gold as a money and silver. When you use gold and silver as a money, the money circulates. It's moving between people. Right? I buy a thing from you, you give me gold, or sorry, I give you gold, you give me things, and then you go buy things and the gold is circulating around. And so at each given point of time, you can have 1,000, you can have, maybe 100, 200 ounces of dead gold sitting in a vault, and then you can have promises and claims on gold from companies you have invested in that says we will give you dividends, and you can use that income to go buy things. And so you can maintain the lifestyle of having 1,000 ounces of dead gold sitting in a vault without actually having 1,000 ounces of dead gold sitting in a vault. Now the problem is not well-meaning bankers or the credit system will print notes for gold that doesn't actually exist, and then people, the circulating currency tricks people into thinking they're much wealthier than they actually are. Then you have a crash, which we're about to go through, and then you need that dead gold. That's when the dead gold reaches the premium. You need that gold that's sitting in a vault because you need to take that out to go spend it to get the stuff you need, and you can also use it to buy opportunities during the crash.
By the way, if
So
you want your dead gold to be live gold, then you can lease it out in monetary metals for 3 to 4%. Just click the link in the description below, and you will have revived your dead gold to gold that is alive. And just to riff on that for a second, I think in an honest monetary system where everyone is leasing their gold out for whatever the going interest rate is, there would be some very few people who would lose their gold or lose their investment. But I think that if you have an honest monetary system plus a little bit of insurance to insure against that, I think almost everyone would be able to safely lease their gold out in that kind of system, and it wouldn't be a problem.
yeah, for the most part, there's always, if you watch the old historical dramas, there's always people who are like, I've invested in a rubber plantation in French Indochina, like Vietnam. It's and the other British socialites kind of like, oh, really? Like, it's a little like you got taken for a ride is sort of the reaction. Like, and of course the stocks proved to be worthless. The company doesn't exist, or the moral of the story is always like, don't invest in a company on the other end of the world that you've never heard of just because some fast talking stock salesman swindled you.
Aerotime International. It is a cutting-edge, high-tech firm out of the Midwest awaiting imminent patent approval on a next generation of radar detectors that have both huge military and civilian applications. Now.
Yeah, so but you can also invest low. You don't have to, people think like, oh, exotic stocks from faraway countries are somehow more profitable. You can invest locally. You don't have to go chasing dreams on the other end of the world. You really can stick locally to businesses that you can physically go and visit and make sure that customers are actually showing up and employees are doing a good job. You don't have to invest in fact, most people did not participate in the stock. People participate. The wider population participating in the stock market is a clear sign of a giant stock market bubble. That's how what's his face, J.P. Morgan. He was getting his shoes shined, and the shoe shine boy was like, "Oh yeah, I'm in those stocks too." And that's when he knew to get out immediately. So that's most people most people's should just store their, especially if they're not particularly wealthy. The gentleman's portfolio really is for somebody who has a bit of stored wealth. The working class's portfolio is have 8 children and take care of them when they're young, and then they'll take care of you when you're old. All 8 children will pitch in together to take care of you and your dotage, and also just stack a little bit of gold, a little bit of silver, and save that up, and then draw that down as you enter your dotage, and you can no longer do productive work on your own. I mean, that's sort of the working man's portfolio. If you have more wealth than that, you can participate in the gentleman's portfolio, where you have passive incomes generated by productive land and business ventures. So what I advise people to do. Well, I didn't advice is illegal, Rafi, as you know. So I would never do that.
I don't
But
give advice.
I don't
I
either.
don't know anything. I'm just an entertainer.
What I suggested might be something to consider in a non-advisory position is that you overstack gold and silver now because we expect a monetary panic, and then during the monetary panic, you reverse that and you overstack or you overinvest in real estate, productive land, and business ventures, and then you allow those business ventures to bring you back into the equilibrium of one third, one third, one third, and then you can just stay there. You can on it if you can successfully stay in the one third, one third, one third, you're pretty much good either way, because if there is more inflation, then your land and your investments will inflate into fake prosperity. And then when they crash, you have your dead gold. All the wealth gets crammed back into the dead gold, and you can go spend that. So the gentleman's portfolio is pretty protective of both inflationary booms and the bust itself.
Yeah. Um, so actually one of the scariest things about the end game for me personally is the fact that once we hit a 15-to-1 ratio or somewhere around that and a 100% backing of all the Fed's liabilities with gold, then I know I'm going to have to spend it, and I know I'm going to have to become a capitalist and have all these productive assets that I'm going to have to maintain, and I'm going
Yeah.
to have to figure out how to do that. And I really don't want to do that at all. But
I get that a lot from viewers too. They're like, "What exactly am I supposed to spend this on? What do I do? What do I buy?" Like, You know,
But it's just like during COVID, right? All of the people that were not vaccinologists and we're not biologists, and we don't know how to, and a lot of us are nerds, and we don't know how to whip up a crowd or get a following, but we know what's going on here, and this is really bad, and we all have to somehow team up. It's just like a bunch of like hobbling handicapped people. Is like, I know what's going on. How do we like market this? How do we talk to people? What are we supposed to do now? And then somehow it enough of us knew sort of what we were doing to start speaking out, and eventually we stopped it. Without our opposition to everything that happened in COVID, it wouldn't have stopped. It would have just kept going, going, going.
yeah,
But we stopped it. It took us a few years, but we stopped it. So I think the same thing is going to happen in the end game. Like a lot of these like retarded capitalists, and I call myself that because I'm not. I was never meant to be a capitalist. I'm just a philosopher. We're not going to know what we're going to be doing at the beginning, and a lot of our investments are going to be just we're going to invest in real estate because a skyscraper is being sold for like 15 ounces. We're like, okay, I'll buy that. And like, it's just going to like collect cobwebs for the next 15, 20 years. And like, it's going to be a crack house for whatever. And then like maybe 15 years later, we're going to come by and like say, okay, what should I do with this now? And somebody's going to offer us maybe 30 ounces of gold for it. I was like, oh, look at that. I doubled my investment.
yeah, exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, you don't, there's a Walmart in my town. I'll use Walmart in every town, but I was thinking like I could buy the abandoned shell of that Walmart, and then somebody will come to me later and be like, I want to turn that into a washing machine assembly plant.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we'll just be custodians of dead capital until the capitalists come out of their holes and they're like, you know what, I want to try this again. And this time they'll listen to us as to what money is, so they won't be such idiots. And then we can give them control of the property, or we can employ them, and then they can be in charge of the business, and then we can just like go on, keep philosophizing or whatever it is that we do. We'll figure it out. It's going to be messy, but that's our calling. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, what I would advise to the viewers is you don't have to know what it is when you buy the abandoned, burned out shell of the Walmart, you don't have to have a vision for what's on the other side of it. That's not necessarily your job. That's the capitalist job. If you are an entrepreneur or capitalist, then, by all means, turn it into whatever you want to turn it into. But if you're just like, I have this giant pile of gold and this building will never be this cheap again in my life, should I buy it? The answer is yes, because somebody else will want to use it, and you can rent it or sell it to them. So that's really all you have to do. And then you
Yeah.
can find something else to do with your cap. You'll get a return on that, and you can go find something else to do. And you can maintain yourself in the gentleman's portfolio just by doing that. And what I did, people deride when I say capitalist is a job. It is absolutely a job. But people deride it because it looks like a guy sitting back, blowing cigar smoke and deciding, which peasants am I going to buy today, But if you're not good at capitalism, you quickly lose your capital, and then you're a working
Yeah.
man once again.
I think the way Rothbard described this, if I remember his description correctly, I don't remember where I read this, but he's like, so the big capitalist who's just sitting there and at a computer screen or looking at ledgers or whatever he's doing, why is he being paid so much? What is he actually doing that's so valuable?
Do you care to know why I'm in this chair with you all? I mean, why I earn the big bucks? I'm here to guess what the music might do a week, a month, a year from now. That's it.
Right? And he basically said it's decision-making ability. He has an entire machine and he has to move it. He's got to control it. It's not automated because the market's always changing. So he has to constantly adapt to the market in order to make this capital machine, as efficient as possible. And that requires constant decision-making ability. Right?
Yeah.
In terms of judging people, figuring out where their talents are, because they're the ones directly operating the machine. You're just directing where the people operating the machine are going. Right? So you have to be able to
Yeah.
judge character to see who's going to be good at that job. What does he need to do? What skills does he need to do? You need to be a good reader of bullshit, or else your capital machine is going to be destroyed because they're all very, very fragile.
Yeah, and you have to know when to cut bait. Like you have to know like, okay, this was a bad idea. Stop cease all future funding. Let's go do something else. rather than, okay, this just needs more investment. This idea will take off. We just need to give it a little more capital. That kind of stuff, that it's a
Yeah.
hard job. Capitalism is a hard job. So that's why neither one of us wants to do it.
Yeah, and if you're wrong, a whole bunch of people lose their job and their livelihood, and they might try to kill you.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'll
yeah,
seize the means of production.
I don't want to be a I don't want to be a capitalist.
Yeah.
But what can I do? That's what's going to
Well,
happen.
like I said, you can maintain the gentleman's portfolio and maybe pay someone else to be the capitalist for you. So
Okay, I'll do
I
that.
think that'll work. The Keynesians make the mistake. I wanted to bring this up before. The Keynesians make the mistake. The way money move when gold is circulating, gold and silver, when it's circulating the system, that's colloquially called the velocity of money. The
Mm,
Keynesians make the mistake of saying, "Oh, that is a thing that we can control. So we can decide how fast the velocity should be going by, pulling this lever or pushing that button." That is a fallacy. The market will decide how fast the money should be flowing, between people. And when you increase the velocity unnaturally, once again, you cause a bust at the end where the velocity will slow down. The velocity, if you have a deflationary crash, the velocity slows down to zero because everyone's hoarding and no one wants to part with it until the prices drop so much that people will part with their gold and silver. And if you have a hyperinflationary crash, velocity goes to infinity because people are dumping their currency as fast as they possibly can. And so that when you try and control the velocity of money, you inevitably end up in one of those two situations where the whole system breaks apart.
yeah. Um, so when I just wanted to put this in there, when silver hit $50, I thought this is entertaining, and then we'll go to why the amount of money doesn't matter and why the amount of money that China has doesn't matter at all.
At all.
China's not going to lead anything. China is not a leader. They are a follower. They copy. That's their nature. That's their culture. So when the West falls, which it will, it's going to be scary. China's not going to emerge as the leader. It's just not happening. There has to be a leadership culture, which I think the West, some of the good parts of the West still has. We'll see who it's going to be. It's not going to be China. I'm not even the least bit worried about that. They're gonna implode. But when silver hit 50, I was on the Temple Mount for Sukkot, praying with the people of my town. We all went up as a town in a bus. I didn't go on the bus. I took my car because I wanted to spend some time in Jerusalem afterwards. But we went up. It was a nice group, and silver hit 50, and it was my birthday. It was my Gregorian birthday, which I don't really count as my birthday, October 9th. My Hebrew birthday is Tu Cheshvan, but whatever. It was my Gregorian birthday, and silver hit 50 while I was there, praying at a golden domed uh Dome of the Rock, which is it's not a mosque. People think it's a mosque. It's not a mosque. It's just a building that covers a rock. The mosque is on the side. And then when we went down, I had arranged a meeting with a friend of mine who had taken some of my silver for safekeeping after October 7th, because after October 7th we had no idea what was going on here. We didn't know if we would have to evacuate, if Hezbollah was about to invade, and we'd have to like run out of town. So I gave him a whole bunch of silver and he gave it back to me on that day. Just coincidence that it happened to be 50, but I'm walking around with a backpack full of silver, not full of silver. It's like, a good amount of ounces of silver, heavy, but I can carry it on a day when silver hits $50. I'm like, sometimes I see God in my life, and
Was it
joking with
jingling?
me.
Like, when you were walking around the backpack, was it just like the
No, no,
the
no. It was
clinking
it was in
metal on them?
plastic stacks
Okay,
that
good. I was gonna say, you're just inviting robbery.
No, it was heavy. I was armed. I had a gun. I had
Yeah.
my gun on me. When I go to Jerusalem, I always bring my gun.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was one of those times when God is like sort of like winking and saying, "You get it? This is fun." Like I'm trying to calculate how much money is on my back or how many dollars are on my back, whatever. It was kind of surreal, and my kids all know about silver, and they know like that there it's in my backpack, so they're like looking at me, they're like, "Is silver 50 yet up? Is it 50?" I'm like, "Yep, it's 50."
horizon.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's talk about why that doesn't matter at all.
Okay. Why doesn't it matter? Who cares?
So this sphere is constantly full of people saying, "Oh, China's taking over. They have all the gold. We're totally screwed. When this blows, we're all going to be enslaved by China, and now they're going to sit at the beach drinking pina coladas, and we are going to be slaving away for pennies." And never, this is, never going to resolve itself, and we're all screwed, and we might as well, we might as well just give up now. The best you can do is dig a hole and go die in it. It's not true in any possible sense because money, as a monetary medium, the amount of money circulating in the system only determines how much each marginal thing it costs. So if you have a system with a lot of gold, I mean a lot of gold in it, then the prices in gold terms are going to be very high because there's a lot of gold floating around. If you're in a system that doesn't have a lot of gold in it, then the prices are going to be very low in gold terms. So the way I try and explain it is if you have let's say you have two countries, you have X and Y, and they are identical for all purposes, except X has more gold than Y. So the crops, the spring comes and people plant their crops and the corn grows, and both countries get the exact same amount of sunlight. Both countries have the exact same amount of fertilizer that they sprinkled on the crops. When the corn comes due to harvest, the only difference is that the corn in X is a lot more expensive than the corn in Y. So if the king of Exia allows his subjects to trade with Yistan, then the people in Exia will say, those Yastanis, they have really cheap corn, way cheaper than ours. I'm going to buy some of their corn. So the Yastanians will say, oh, goody, we're getting, these guys are offering gold for our corn. Let's do it. So they'll send the gold over and the corn goes over this way. Now, what happens to the corn in Wyastan? It becomes more expensive because the money supply has gone up, and B, there's less corn. So now the corn and the corn prices equilibrate in the two countries, and a bunch of gold has moved from X to Y. Next year comes around, a new set of corn is planted, but guess what? Now the gold in the two countries is the same as it is the same. So now the corn in gold terms is the same price in both countries. That's all that happens. So the fact that China has a bunch of gold, they might have a couple of years. I mean, this is assuming the CCP is going to let the gold out of the vaults and it's going to let the people trade internationally, which they never do. So assuming the CCP, we're going to institute Rothbardian gold standard in China, then the Chinese people might have a good couple years where maybe they get to sit on the beach and drink a pina colada because they have a lot of gold and they could import a bunch of stuff. But that's really going to be it. And then the gold's going to equilibrate to the rest of the world and the prices are going to equilibrate because money always moves to where it's demanded the most. Now, if the Chinese government does what I think it's going to do, which is close its borders and not let its gold leave, then the Chinese people are going to not have as much. They're not going to have as much stuff because they can't import things from the rest of the world, but they're going to have more jewelry. So they're going to have nice. A Chinese. It might be a thing where the Chinese man has 5 gold rings, and that's considered fairly standard, and the rest of the world's like, wow, they have a lot of gold in China that we can't get at. And then the rest of the world has more stuff, but not as much gold. So
Yeah.
Prices will just be lower. And the only thing we won't have is we'll have less jewelry. And I don't know about you, I can live with that, Rafi. Jewelry is not a thing that I need.
Yeah. Okay, so let me put it this way. When I'm gonna give you the same answer, just from a little bit of a different angle. So when people say China has so much gold and that's so much of a threat and they're gonna take over the world, okay, what they mean, but I don't think they know that they mean, what they're really afraid of is so the dollar collapses, the whole inflationary dollar-based system is now kaput. And then so now they imagine that this inflationary system as we know it now moves to China. And all of a sudden China is the base of the pyramid and they can inflate. And then once they can inflate, they can buy everything. And then they become the international superpower. And in a world with China as the international superpower would really mamish be a very scary world. I don't want to live in a world where China is the superpower. That just take me out. I don't want to be here. But it's not going to happen. I'm not even worried that's going to happen because the error in that thinking is that, okay, the dollar collapses, that's going to happen, but then that means that not just the dollar collapses, but everything underneath the dollar collapses, which includes the yuan. It's not like we are in a world now where nobody trusts any credit because people have decided that gold is money again, and or they've recognized, not that it's again, but they've recognized that gold is actually the money, dollar is just credit, and they've abandoned the dollar. And now you're telling me that in that world they're going to say, well, America screwed it up. I think I'm going to trust the Chinese Communist Party now for the same system. And I'll give them the right to inflate, and I'll give them the right to just like keep printing more and more yuan so they can buy everything. No one's going to trust China if nobody trusts America. Nobody's going to trust anybody. It's just going to be money. And so if China has more money, then they're going to have to spend the gold, not the yuan on top of the gold and keep the gold. They're going to have to take the gold and ship it somewhere to get stuff. And that's fine. That's good.
Yep.
That's not going to threaten anybody. There's going to be nobody in charge. There's going to be no international power after this, not for many generations. But I don't know who's going to be in charge of whatever region. China might be in charge of its region, or China might just break apart entirely, and the whole Chinese Communist Party might collapse. But we're just like the structure of production and the centralization of capital. It breaks into pieces because the dollar collapses, because credit collapses, and you need a lot of credit to centralize these systems. It's the same with political orders. All the power centers are going to disintegrate into different power focal points around the world. And then it's going to take a while for someone, it's going to take a long time for these powers to gather it together again, and it's going to need inflation for that. So after inflation, no, China's not going to be in charge. You don't have to be afraid of that. Their gold supply is completely irrelevant.
Co-signed.
Okay.
And I do think they'll break apart. I don't see the CCP surviving. The only reason the CCP even survived Tiananmen was because President Bush showed up with a whole bunch of credit for China. They were like, "We're going to make you most favored nation status. We're going to bring you to the World Trade Organization." If they hadn't done that, China would have, the CCP would have collapsed in 1989. So,
God, I hate the Bushes so
once
much.
again, huh?
I hate the Bushes so much.
I know they're yeah. Wait till you find out about the Clintons.
I know.
It's the USSR would have collapsed probably in the 60s if America hadn't bailed them out with like grain shipments and stuff. I don't know why we do this. Well, I do know why we do this, inflation, but that it makes no sense. We keep like these sock puppet enemies alive so we can justify blowing up third world countries. It's like, well, they're going to be communist if we don't.
Sock Puppet Enemy would be a good name for a band.
Yeah, there you go. Sock puppet enemy. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anything else? I think we covered that. Now the question is who's going to listen. I don't. People don't necessarily listen or follow the logic of what we're saying on that. But it is. I promise, viewer, it is absolutely true. The amount of gold in a system doesn't matter. Now it does matter.
The threat is the ability to inflate. No one's going to have that. That's all you need to know. No one's going to be able to inflate credit over money because no one will trust anybody's credit. That's the bottom line.
And I think it'll last for many. I think the rest of our lives are probably going to be very little credit and a lot of money. So whatever that world looks like, the world's going to be a very different looking place. It's kind of weird. I'm waiting to pay the milkman in silver again.
It's going to be good. We're gonna enjoy it.
I hope so. All right. I think that's it. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. We'll see you all next time.
I'm going to head to a barbecue now. In a tent. Right. In a hut.
In a tent. I was going to ask.
A tent has a point for a roof. This is a flat roof.
Oh, okay.
It's a hut.
A hut. All right. Well, enjoy your barbecue in the other hut.
It's a tabernacle.
A tabernacle. And it's classy. It's a tabernacle and it's classy.
Yes. Okay. Have a good week.
Take care.
Bye.